Hey, good afternoon, everybody. And we're so proud at the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce to be celebrating Small Business Day. You may know that the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce has been a strong advocate for small businesses and entrepreneurs for the better part of 2 decades. We've helped to redefine what a small business is, the small family, the entrepreneur. And now with this pandemic, we're beginning to see the importance of these small businesses. Today, we have a great panel of people that are going to give, that help us, people that run our state. We have the State Comptroller, Tom DiNapoli. We have BRENDA from the IRS. We have Peter Fehnel, who works in the district office for New York. And we all have a good friend, Shari, Rosen, Ascher, up from Westchester, who's representing County Executive George Latimer. So let me introduce our first panelist, our first speaker, the Comptroller of our great state, Tom DiNapoli. Tom is no stranger to politics, but he also has a strong background in business. He spent over 20 years in the state legislature, so he understands what we're going through right now. And he is our fiscal watchdog. And in this pandemic, we're very concerned about how we're going to get back to work and how we're going to get through this. And I want to introduce the Comptroller, who's known for being a strong fiscal watchdog of our dollars, our tax dollars, and how our government spends them, our State Comptroller, Tom DiNapoli.
Thank you, Mark, very much for the kind introduction. Thank you for inviting me to participate. I know this was not the initial intent of how to recognize Small Business Day, but my compliments to you and the team of the Greater New York Chamber for figuring out how to accommodate participation in this new reality that we are living through. And Mark Jaffe, I really thank you for a wonderful partnership that we've enjoyed and a friendship for many, many years, and certainly the work of the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce as important as ever, because certainly small businesses are very much the backbone of our economy in the city, really all across our state, and our small businesses are facing very, very, very tough headwinds right now as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic. I know you have a great panel with Peter and Brenda and Shari as well. I'll try to do my part expeditiously, and if any of your participants have questions, be happy to try to take them before I have to jump off and get on the next. We're doing a lot of Zoom and Skyping these days with organizations and with the press. So look, you're on the front lines. You all know what's going on. And of course, we began the morning with confirmation of more bad news in terms of where the economy's at. April loss of 20.5 million jobs nationwide, unemployment rate 14.7%. You know, just think of where we were at the beginning of March and where we're at today. You know, some of the commentators were observing that although that unemployment rate may not be as high as the peak during the Great Depression, what makes this so devastating is how quickly the job losses happened in this year of 2020. And again, the analysis is just starting to come through, but we see that communities are affected in different ways. So communities of color, African American, Hispanic communities are hit harder by with the unemployment numbers than other communities. Education attainment level also is a factor. We've seen this in other economic downturns for workers without a high school diploma or having high school diploma as their achievement level. They are faring much worse in this economy than those with a bachelor's or higher education. So no doubt that those that are least able to navigate through tough times are being affected by the job loss that's out there. You know, we need to look at this obviously first and foremost from the perspective of the human dimension, the public health dimension. So, you know, certainly for everybody on the call, I hope you and yours are safe and well. We all know people who've been affected, many of us members of our family who've been affected. And that's why I think the emphasis that we certainly hear from the governor, as Mark said, we have looked forward to his daily updates, to focus on the science and the data and to understand the public health dimension. That has to be a priority. We see a flattening of the curve here in New York. And, you know, the governor has now talked about a reopening of the economy, doing it on a regional basis, doing it on a sector basis, beginning with manufacturing and construction. and having each region use certain metrics as they seek to open up the economy. So looking at hospitalization rates, capacity in hospitals, testing, tracing, and so on, we all follow that. What it really adds up to, though, is that the New York City metro area is no doubt going to be the last region in our state that's going to meet the requirements of that guidance and be able to open up again. So, you know, the new economic reality is certainly concerning. And reopening the economy and having people get back to their workplace in a safe environment is certainly going to be a challenge. And, you know, we're going to have to transform our workplaces in many, many ways. That will certainly be an ongoing discussion. You know, in addition to the unemployment numbers nationwide, obviously here in New York, unemployment claims have been way up. March 21st, April 25th, 1.6 million new unemployment claims. We paid out close to $6 billion in unemployment benefits. Sales tax collections. We always do quarterly reporting on sales tax. And, you know, to a certain extent, I said to my folks, we'll put out numbers as of March 31st, but how meaningful is that? Because, you know, for January and February and the beginning of March, it's one picture and very different for the last 2 weeks of March. So we had a net increase in sales tax statewide, about 4.6%. When you drill down on the numbers, and I think this illustrates the challenge, and small businesses know this on the front line, the last 2 weeks of March, New York City had a 12% decrease in sales tax revenue, just in those 2 weeks, whereas the previous 2 months and 2 weeks certainly saw strong sales tax returns in New York City. So New York City being the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis in New York, no surprise that New York City got hit first in terms of that decrease in sales tax revenue. All of the revenue hits are affecting government at every level. In our state financial plan, we project a budget gap of about $13.3 billion. The budget that was put together has, in effect, placeholder numbers in terms of local assistance and spending for state agencies. On May 15th, we'll put out our cash report from the Comptroller's office. It'll track spending and revenue. And under the provisions of the governor's budget, at that point, if we don't have adequate revenues, the Division of Budget can adjust downward the spending commitments for state agencies and for local assistance. What that really creates a concern for is what will be the impact on New York City's budget, what will be the impact on localities, including school districts all across our state, if we have to inflict cuts. So, the state needs to balance its budget. We can't, print money. We don't have that capacity like the federal government has. But if New York State has to balance its budget by cutting local assistance, that only makes the situation at the local level even worse. Certainly for New York City, where they're very dependent on sales tax and property tax revenue, very sensitive revenue streams in the face of what we're going through. So you just imagine if the state has to do an additional cutback there, what kind of dislocation that would cause. City's projecting an $8.7 billion 2-year budget gap, projecting 563,000 jobs lost in the city for the first 3 quarters of 2020, not expecting job growth to happen again until the 4th quarter of the fiscal year, and not really expecting gains until 2021. So I think that underscores what we're seeing at the state level as well. It's really not just a 1-year problem. This is going to go into next year and beyond. We're projecting significant out-year budget gaps. What does it all mean? We need more help from Washington, is the bottom line. We can't just cut our way out or borrow our way out of this challenge, although the state has given the governor more authority to borrow beyond what normally would be allowed in more stable times. And some folks are proposing tax increases. I don't think this is the best time to start taxing our way out of the problem as well. So we appreciate the help we've gotten thus far from Washington. $5.1 billion to the state, $1 billion for education aid, $920 million for higher education aid. Municipalities, 500,000 or more in population, are able to access money from the COVID relief fund. That's New York City, our larger counties in the town of Hempstead. But we still have these issues with state budget gap, with local budget gaps as well. Some of you may have seen, I penned an op-ed in the Daily News 2 days ago now, I guess, really reminding our delegation in Washington, who, by the way, have been great on a bipartisan basis, our senators and our members of Congress. We really need to do more. We need to support them in making the point that our not just our state, really it's all states are being hit by this. Our states and our local governments need more in terms of unrestricted federal aid. You know, the Federal Reserve has provided some borrowing liquidity, again, to help our municipalities, but you know, you just can't get around it. As I said, we can't just cut our way out of this, borrow our way out of this, or tax our way out of it. We need more help from Washington, and we need it sooner than later. You know, as well, there's been federal help in terms of the PPP program. The initial rollout obviously had some bumps. There's been additional money allocated, part of that $484 billion package that also had money for hospitals and testing. Look, you know, I know we're all operating in a crisis environment, and I think we should appreciate the fact that there is an effort to help our small businesses, and we certainly hope some of the misfires in the beginning of the program, you know, are being straightened out. What we try to do is be helpful as well. You know, one of my roles is trustee of the state pension fund. We go into this challenging time as a well-funded pension plan, so that's good news. We're certainly being affected as everybody else is. But we've had a long-term relationship with the New York Business Development Corporation. They've now been renamed Pursuit Lending. And we have designated, working with the team at Pursuit Lending, $50 million of money we've already financed as part of our investment relationship with them to be available to small businesses in New York under the auspices of the federal PPP program. So what that really means is it is still a New York program through Pursuit, formerly NYBDC. So it's not the federal program. What's different is that the loan amounts really is meant for small businesses. So I hope some of the folks listening may take advantage of this if you haven't heard about it. There's no minimum on the loans. The maximum is $350,000 loan. So clearly it's intended for small businesses. The benefit for us is that it's got the federal guarantees. So we will not, no money will be lost on any of these loans, even if some of them might fall under the parameters of what could be a loan that could be forgivable. So from the pension fund perspective, we still get the return that we've always been guaranteed through this investment relationship. It falls in our fixed income basket. So, we're not necessarily making a huge return on this, but it's a safe and reliable return. And having more of this money available in the middle of this crisis certainly is a way in which we could show we're not only looking after the interests of our pension fund and our retirees, but also trying to have more capital be available for small businesses in New York. So for folks who may want more information about that program, the website is pursuitlending.com, pursuitlending.com. Their phone number is 1-866-466-9232, 866-466-9232. If you're interested, give them a call. Something else that's different about this program than our traditional loan program with Pursuit Lending is that not-for-profits can also apply for loans in addition to small businesses. Just to wrap up, we also have put on our website, whatever your search engine is, put in New York State Comptroller. We have a COVID-19 financial survival toolkit for New Yorkers. A lot of information about resources that are available to individuals, nonprofits, small businesses as well, in terms of accessing the help that is being made available as we respond to this pandemic crisis. We're working with the governor's office on emergency payments to expedite equipment purchases, ventilators, personal protective equipment. I think we're up to about $677 million worth of emergency payments that we have facilitated. We're also working with the Department of Labor to expedite fulfilling unemployment benefits. There's been, again, because of all of the demand, the initial rollout was somewhat slow. It's been made more efficient, and we're working with the governor's office on achieving that. And also, as we always like to remind everyone, we are the custodian of unclaimed funds for the state. So many of you as businesses and as individuals may have money that was lost somewhere along the way, a check that wasn't cashed or an account that went dormant. We're holding those accounts until we find you or you find us. So now is a great time to check for unclaimed funds. Again, you can search right on our website or call our 800 number, 1-800-221-9311, and we will have folks assist you in getting that money. I can tell you that we are getting many, many phone calls. A lot of folks who knew they had unclaimed funds but had put off claiming them, they need the money now, so they're reaching out to us. So, let me wrap it up there. Is it all dire? No, but it's a tough time. You all know that. I'm confident we'll get through it. We got through 9/11. We got through the Great Recession. This is somewhat of a different crisis, but it really is all hands on deck at the state level. We're all trying to be supportive of each other and certainly supportive of our small business community as we get to whatever the new normal will be. So let me end it there, Mark. And if anybody
Thank you, Tom.
be happy
I guess we have time maybe for one question. So as you know, the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce is a champion of small businesses, and they're scared now. They're worried about getting back to work. They're worried about slowly getting back to work, and their revenues will be short. So how would you advise the state agencies that, depend upon taxpayers like the small business and the agencies that need the money from the small businesses? How would you advise them, since we don't know how quickly, we don't want to raise taxes, how would you advise them to plan their budgets for the next year, 2020, the next quarter, the third quarter? Is there a way that we can anticipate that they need to plan to spend less?
In terms of the state agencies?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think the reality is that guidance is going to come from the Division of Budget and probably as soon as in the next week. I think everyone's anticipating that there will be some cutbacks. I think the problem, whether you're talking about city agencies or state agencies, we're also at a time where we need the government services, right? And a lot of the agencies are very much on the front line of responding to the pandemic. So, I think the balancing act is making sure we are keeping an adequate level of support for our frontline government workers and still managing our budget, which is why at the end of the day, we need more of that help from Washington. You're right, it's not a time to be raising taxes, but I think it's also not a time where we can just cut our way out of this or borrow our way out as well. But the governor does have expanded borrowing authority, again, as part of the response to this pandemic in the state budget. But it's one thing to borrow short-term for cash flow as we get through the next few months. If we turn it into deficit borrowing, that's going to give us long-term debt obligations. That will really tie our hands and tie future taxpayers, for many years to come. So it is a tough balancing act, but I do think you will see some cutbacks in state agencies. And even from an employment perspective, some of our local governments are already talking about furloughs and laying people off. We haven't heard that at the state level, although I think, as you know, the salary increases that in April have been put off at least for 3 months, perhaps longer. So everybody's tightening their belts because we know that's what you're doing in the private sector as well. But we want to be able to provide the kind of support that's going to be needed as we reopen this economy. You mentioned getting back to work. I mean, one of the other big issues is transportation. You all see what's happening with the MTA. They've gotten $3.9 billion from the federal government. Pat Foy's asked for another $4 billion. We need folks to feel safe and secure using mass transit again. If people can't get to their jobs, even if we start to open up the economy, if people don't feel safe and secure going to work, it's going to be very hard to have people working and paying taxes and spending money, which is obviously, ultimately what we need. So we have a lot that we need to continue to dialogue on. Public health comes first, having a safe and secure workplace, but recognizing that whether we're talking about federal aid, talking about borrowing, talking about cuts in spending, ultimately the real solution is people have got to get back to work. They've got to be earning money, they've got to be spending money, and clearly that's going to be that's not going to be just turning on the switch again. We're going to have to reimagine our workplaces, our workspaces. I'm here in Albany. We have a skeleton crew working right now, and we're having to consider, do we have to reconfigure floor plans and have more distance between people working? Do we have to stagger the hours that people come in? How do we manage, we're 15 floors, and I can tell you on a normal business day, the elevators are slow and they're packed. Well, folks aren't going to want to be packed into an elevator anymore. How are we going to manage all this? So So we're having to rethink the transformation. You're having to do that as well. Think of our small businesses that are, that are restaurants. How can they survive if they can't have the capacity that they're used to having? So the implications of how we reopen are severe. I know certainly at the city level, the mayor has set up advisory groups, including business leaders, to give guidance on how we do this. But, ultimately, Mark, that's going to be the solution. We've got to get back to work.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you. You've always been a fiscal steward. I know you were against high deficits. You made your bones on that when you first came in prior to 2010. And now we have an opportunity to not go into extraordinary debt, but your fiscal stewardship of keeping that debt down is going to pay big dividends. You helped to create the rainy day fund, and you're going to have this forum. We're going to ask you to come back. Because obviously, you're not just a numbers cruncher. You have some good common sense answers. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Mark. Good luck, everybody. Thank you. Stay safe.
Yes. I'd now like to turn our attention to Peter Fehnel. Peter is the Economic Supervisory Director, Assistant Director of the New York District Office. Obviously, our small business members are concerned about their lost revenues as the Comptroller talked about. The SBA has stepped up to the plate with EIDL loans and PPP loans and 7A loans. Obviously, it was a tough rollout, but as I've heard Peter say in other forums like this, they did more lending in 14 days than they did in 14 years. So Peter, I know, and I can speak on behalf of our many, many members, that we are beginning to see that PPP money. EIDL deposits have been made in bank accounts, and we thank the SBA for that. So now as we're closing out this second round of funding, we still have many community banks offering PPP loans. There's still money there. Can you give us an update of the SBA PPP loans and this disaster recovery loans?
Yes, hi, I'm Mark. Thank you so much for having me here, and to your wonderful team there at the Chamber. I greatly appreciate it. As we're here looking at small businesses and Small Business Day, I just want to say a couple words on that first before I get to it. But celebrating Small Business Week, the mission of the SBA is to helping Americans to start and grow their small businesses, to achieve the American dream of small business ownership by providing resources to help Americans to thrive, small businesses thrive. And I just want to focus on our resource partners today, just to remind everybody, we have the Women Business Centers, the WBCs, the Small Business Development Centers, the SBDCs, the Veteran Business Center, Veteran Business Outreach Center, VBOC, and SCORE. And they're there and ready to help you. Phone, email, Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, whatever. Just some general, and it's no charge anytime you work with them and talk with them. So some general statistics is businesses that with ongoing mentorship are twice as profitable as non-mentored businesses. And in the startup phase, only 24% of businesses survive that first 5 years. And mentored businesses, over 75% survive that first 5 years. And connect with an SBA resource partner. It's time, right now, as Tom was just talking about, to rethink and develop your business strategy for today. What are you going to do today? What are you going to do when you open your business today? They're there. There's no charge to work with them. It's free. Our resource partners have additional information, additional resources. And they're pulling this together and having it available for you to direct you to these additional resources to help small business through the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, now looking at and providing that update on our the SBA's COVID-19 layered support for small businesses, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and Advance, the Express Bridge Loan, the Paycheck Protection Program, Small Business Debt Relief Program. The Small Business Debt Relief Program is for existing SBA loans, non-pandemic, where the SBA is paying 6 months principal, interest, and fees on your existing SBA loan. And existing disaster loans have all been deferred through December 31st. So your next payment on an existing non-pandemic disaster loan will be January 1st of 21. So with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, after the an advance after the second round of funding. It did not reopen. Okay, they can to accept additional applications. They continue to work through their existing application queue. They've funded over 5 million advances have been dispersed to this point, and they've just opened a couple days ago to accept applications from agricultural businesses for the EIDL. Okay, with the Paycheck Protection Program, the second round of funding of $310 billion. Over 185 billion has been approved. This week we're averaging about $2 billion a day in lending. Okay, there's still as of this morning $125 billion still available. Okay, so with the second round, the average Paycheck Protection Program loan size is $79,000. For New York, we've had with the second round over 164,000 loans approved. And that's over $17 billion in New York alone. And the average loan size with the Paycheck Protection Program in New York is a little over 107,000. Okay, and then I just want to, that's the update, and I just want to, again, say the SBA resource partners, connect with them, the Women Business Centers, the Small Business Development Centers, the Veteran Business Outreach Center, and SCORE. They're there to help you. And, please reach out to them. They have additional resources. Thank you.
So Peter, we're running short on time because we have a whole day. We're celebrating small business, as you mentioned, and we love our partnership with the Small Business Administration. But we do know that our small business leaders are scared. They're getting these PPP loans. They're not sure if they're loans or how they can be forgiven. And the clock starts ticking once their banks fund them. I know that the regulations are changing every day. What do you see in your crystal ball in terms of loan forgiveness for these PPP loans?
Okay, when you look at the Paycheck Protection Program, we have a 75% rule. Okay, so 75% of what is to be forgiven is spent on payroll. Now, inside of payroll, what is forgiven? Well, we're going to include in our payroll our pay up to $100,000 annual. So we're talking over $15,000 maximum for those 8 weeks paid out to an individual. We're talking the insurance premium, your health, your dental, your vision, your long-term care, they're all included. Your retirement pension, your 401k, your 401k catch-up, they're included. Not included would be your like dues for a union. Okay, this is where we're at right now. And then on the other side, so the employee's pay is deductible. The employer's contribution, matching contribution to taxes is not deductible. Okay, and then so a few things like that. So then when you get to rent, the 25% that's forgiven under your rent, your mortgage interest, your utilities, that will make up the final 25%. Now, if you're a sole proprietor or independent contractor, you have to have in your 2018, 2019 tax returns included, that rent, utilities are included in your business expense deducted on your personal tax return. If it's not in there, those are not things that you can deduct if you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor. Okay, so this is where we are, and as you identified, Mark, it's continuing to evolve, but these are some of the basic ideas we have.
So again, Peter, we would love to bring you back as it involves weekly updates. We're getting inundated with phone calls at 212 Chamber because people want to know. They want to know, can they replace their people? In fact, they're having a hard time enticing their people to come back off this generous unemployment benefit that the federal government has subsidized the state unemployment with. Big problem that we can talk about in another forum. Yes. So I want to thank you, and I look forward to having you back for another forum about all these issues with the SBA lending PPP programs. And I want to thank you for getting that money out there. Thank you very much on behalf of all the members and partners of the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. I see we have our good friend from Westchester, my home county, representing great County Executive, George Latimer, and I know he's doing a bang-up job there keeping us safe in the epicenter. New Rochelle was one of the first communities to really be a hot spot. We worked closely with the governor. George Latimer stepped up. We tapped that down, and we're beginning to see our declining numbers. But we are confident in George's leadership. And I want to say hi to Shari, Rosen, Ascher, who is an advocate and works very closely with George Latimer. Shari, is that Dobbs Ferry you're right there at?
That's good. Well, thank you so much for letting me join this panel. This is truly an honor, and I'm happy to be here. So I am the community liaison for the county executive, specifically for all of the chambers of commerce in Westchester. So unlike New York City, we have, you know, about 35 different chambers in Westchester County for each municipality and different interest group. And I communicate with them all, try to bring them together. We have a very robust program in the Office of Economic Development, which is led by Bridget Gibbons, that is focusing in on small business. The county executive, not only a great guy, but has always been a huge supporter of chambers of commerce and of Main Street. And he recognizes that the things that make Westchester special are all the different unique communities that are there. So we actually surveyed our local business owners. We sent out a survey early on when this first started. We got over 700 responses. And from those responses, we helped to start a program to train volunteers to help people with the SBA loan applications, because in the beginning that was a lot of what the confusion was, and people had never applied for assistance before and they didn't know how to go through it. We got 350 people right away who offered to volunteer to help. So we've partnered with Volunteer New York to help people in Westchester with that part. We also have created a crisis advisory team to address the issues that the business owners told us were most important to them. We just had a webinar yesterday on anxiety and business decision making, because as you know, when you're all anxious and stressed out, it's hard to make real focused decisions. And business owners, as you all know, are dealing with the short-term decisions they have to make for right now to survive right now, but they also have to play a long game. This is also a marathon, and we don't know exactly what it's going to look like on the other side, but it will look different. And they do have to prepare. We've done webinars on setting up e-commerce. We've done webinars on small business survival guides. If anybody who's out there is in Westchester, I'll put in the web address for Westchester Catalyst, which is what we call the Office of Economic Development. We send out newsletters every day with updated information. And, you know, we're doing the best we can to try to make the connections that are necessary, get business owners connected to places they could buy masks and do things to set their business up, and trying to help them with cash flow issues and things like that. So this is an unprecedented time, and obviously no one person has all the answers, but I feel very confident working for George Latimer that if anyone could get it done, he can.
Yes, I agree. George Latimer is instilling a lot of confidence in the small business owners in Westchester County. Mm-hmm. I miss coming to some of the local networking events with some of those 35 chambers that we often frequent. The Zoom conferences we were at a Harrison Chamber of Commerce conference. Right. It was fun but different.
No food.
I also want to give a shout out to the Westchester Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which I know some of the membership there and the leadership is on this conference, and I want to thank our good friends from the Westchester Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Me too, because they've been great allies, and we also set up bilingual volunteers to help Hispanic business owners with the application process. So we've got that set up as well.
Yep, and thank you, and give our big thanks to George Latimer, our county executive.
I will. Thank you.
And now we have our good friend Brenda Luke from the IRS. So don't tune out, because a lot of you should have got a little present from the IRS, a nice check. And a lot of people are concerned about payments. Money is limited. And we've asked Brenda on to talk about what the IRS is doing to help ease this burden that we have, all the burdens that we have because of this pandemic. So Brenda Luke from the Internal Revenue Service, how are you doing? Let me unmute you. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and the Chamber for inviting us to speak. And what I'd like to talk about today is some of the economic impact payment information that I want to let everybody know that is a live website. So if you go to irs.gov, that information is live. You can click on coronavirus and it will give you a list of FAQs you can click on that comes out every day. So a lot of questions that have come up that people have stated that they haven't received their payments, all these various questions with no answers, we actually are loading them every day. But what we like to say is if you become familiar with our website, we have like 43 different questions that's come up. A lot of people are concerned that they were not in the first batch of people to get their economic payment, and the fact that they're thinking because they were not, they're not going to get the payment. But everyone, it says who's eligible. A U.S. citizens, residents will receive the economic impact payment of $1,200 for individuals, as well as if you are married and your income is $75,000 and less, you will get $2,400 for being married, and you get $500 for children under 16 years of age. Also, this is eligible for people that are non-filers. The big issue now, we're trying to reach out to organizations that service the homeless, or people in shelters, or seniors that may not think that they're eligible because they have not been required to file. We have a non-filer tool that's on irs.gov where a person can go in and upload their address or in the banking information if they want to receive it at a bank. Also, they can upgrade and upload their address. What we're trying to prevent is scammers. We want people to know that IRS is not going to call you and ask you for your banking information. We do have organizations that are coming in there calling people and asking for one's banking information. We're not going to do that. Those are scammers. So if you have questions in terms of, I haven't got my refund, or I didn't get enough money, you want to make sure you go into irs.gov. The other thing I wanted to say, because of the pandemic that we're in COVID-19, a lot of compliance issues are not happening right now. So that means that if you were on a previous installment agreement with the IRS and you are not able to make your payment, we're not going to levy you. We're not levying. If you had an orphan compromise where you were not able to make that payment, that's okay. Also, the filing season has been extended to July 15th. That includes not just filing, but that includes also if you have to pay. And if you need time after July 15th, you can always file an extension until October 15th. So these are some of the things that we're actually doing to help people to be aware. We want to let people know also, people might have sent in paper returns. Well, with what's going on, the pandemic, there have not been IRS people at the office to get the mail if you mail documents to the IRS. So people are slowly going back to work. The mail will be answered. Toll-free has been down. I would say a lot of IRS people like myself, the communications that may work at home, we've actually been the toll-free, and we've been walking people through why they haven't got their refund. We've been walking them through the FAQs, helping people to understand what has been the process. I mean, we just recently sent a lot of checks out to individuals that was on Social Security. People that are on Social Security, they do not have to do anything. The veterans do not have to do anything. But I would say if your banking account has changed from the last time you filed, let us know. If you do not have direct debit, you would want to go in to upload that information. And you can always go into, get my payment. You will be able to see if the payment was sent out and the status. So these are some of the recommendations. As I said, this is a live document. In terms of businesses, there was 3 business credit that was uploaded. One of the business credit was the employee retention credit. This employee retention credit is designed to encourage businesses to keep employees on the payroll. And this refundable tax credit is up to 50% or up to $10,000 in wages paid by the eligible employer. Also, we have the paid sick leave credit and family leave credit. This would encourage individuals. This here paid sick leave credit is for people that might have to be out of work to take care of someone that might be affected by the coronavirus, or they have to be out due to children, taking care of children. And what employers can do now, what do they need to do in order to get this credit? Employers can immediately be reimbursed for this tax credit by reducing their required deposits of payroll. And they can do this now by going into our website, and you can download Form 7200. This is an advance payment or employee credit, and this would be applicable during this here time period. So these are some of the things that we're actually doing, and we're hoping individuals go into our website, and if they have questions, as you being one of my partners, you know, they can come to you. We've had such a long relationship, and whatever way, and maybe what we can do is set up a, you know, a area where we can actually go over some of this information. That way people do not have to feel that they are left out. Everybody's not getting it at the same time, but I would just say, please go in and update your information if there have been any changes from the last time you filed your tax return.
Brenda, thank you so much. And as you said, we are a partner, resource partner with the IRS, and you have a lot of good programs there. So all our members that are listening, if you have questions, we have attorneys and accountants in our legal center that can help you with some of these tax credits. So if you have any questions at all, just contact us at 212-CHAMBER. Somebody will answer the phone or get back to you shortly. And I guess one question, we have time for one question for you now, Brenda, but I want to again thank all the panelists. Tom DiNapoli was a treasure trove of information, our state controller, Shari, Rosen, Ascher, telling us what a great job, and I personally know what a great job George Latimer is doing in Westchester County to keep the people informed and understand that they don't need to be scared, they just need to be smart. It's common sense. Thank you, Shari. And of course, Peter Fehnel, our SBA partner, we can't thank you enough for getting that money, much needed money through loans and possibly grants into the hands of the small businesses. So one last question for you, Brenda, from the Internal Revenue Service. A lot of our business members pay payroll taxes. There was talk about a payroll tax holiday. There is a concern that money is limited. So are we going to see a payroll tax holiday? Are we going to waive penalties for the employer's portion of payroll taxes during this pandemic till we start getting back to normal? How do you see that coming? Do you see further regulations and guidance coming? What do you know now?
Well, as I said, we have to keep up to date with what's going on. I would say for everyone to keep checking our website. And what I can do is send you what we have as the latest information, and that way you can share it out to everyone about this year upcoming the penalties. I mean, in terms of even with businesses now, some of the penalties that people have, some of them could be abated. It's important for people to keep account of their records, and again with these different credits, you know, making sure that they do have if they have a staff, and also the fact that if they were affected. So I would say, as I said, I will send you the latest information that we have. That way, you know, you can share it with everyone on the phone.
We definitely will. And as we've been getting great comments about the information we've been listing from Westchester, New York City, New York State on our website. It's behind me, chamber.nyc. Again, everybody out there should know we can be called at 212-CHAMBER. That's 242-6237. And again, we're here to celebrate small businesses, and we do that by helping small businesses. Again, I want to thank our panelists, State Controller Tom DiNapoli. I want to thank Peter Fehnel from the Small Business Administration. I want to thank Shari, Rosen, Ascher, representing our county executive in Westchester, George Latimer. And I want to thank you, Brenda Stewart-Luke, our friend from the IRS, our partner and friend. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day, and stay safe, and have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Stay safe.